Yeah, it's mindset cafe, we all about that mindset. Gotta stay focused, never settle for less. It's all in your head, how you think you manifest. So get ready to rise, cause we about to be the best. Gotta switch it up, gotta break the old habits. Get your mind right, turn your dreams into habits. No negative vibes, only positive.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Mindset Cafe podcast. It's your boy, Debian Gonzalez. And we got a special guest for you guys today. We have Sean Malone. He is the co-founder and CMO of Flow Chat, but he has been in the entrepreneurial space for years, to say the least. And this is going to be one of his first businesses that's going to actually hit 9 figures, which is not an easy feat. I know a lot of entrepreneurs are trying to hit that 6-figure mark, let alone 7 figures, and to even go into the 9 it's amazing. So I wanted to bring Sean on today and dive into his experience of his entrepreneurial journey with his current software company, as well as other companies that he has done in the past, and really learn what he's used to overcome his mindset battles and, along his journey, because that's what we're here to do, right? So Sean, thank you so much for coming on today.
Mr. Gonzalez, first of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I'm super pumped. I love what you're doing. I can't edify you enough. I think more people need a better mindset when it comes to stuff like this. So I'm really excited that you're doing what you can to put the word out. And I really love your intro music, by the way, too. I think it's dope. So thank you for having me, man.
No, I appreciate it. No, thank you. So let's dive into it a little bit. Where did your entrepreneurial journey start?
Okay. So my entrepreneurial journey started when I was 12. I watched my dad and, we had immigrated from South Africa to the United States when I was young. I was just 2.5, and, he struggled to make it in America because he spoke funny and all this other stuff. And eventually, he started as a sales guy, and he was selling steel. And then he ended up, building a little import-export cookware business, of which he said, "You're going to come work for me." So I was like, okay, cool, great. Right. So it was kind of like trying to like that child labor thing. I was like, oh, but I get to hang out with my dad, because obviously I love my dad. He's one of the biggest heroes and influences in my life. And so I went and I just started pushing a broom in his shop floor, but I watched him work 100 hours a week plus at this little business that he'd started growing. And that's where I started like learning that, oh God, you got to actually work your tail off in order to get some like big results. So like that work ethic was really instilled in me from a pretty young age. Fast forward, went to college, kind of had the entrepreneurial bug from my dad, because I watched him actually start to succeed and do some other things. So I actually started I got in a little bit of trouble in college. I used to drink a little bit. So I got a minor in possession of alcohol ticket from the cops when I was underage. And I had to do this community service. And so I was doing this community service. One of the options was to go clean bus windows, right? So here I am, 18 years old. I go into the little department and I'm starting to clean these bus windows. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, when I was in high school, me and my buddy Andy, we used to like detail cars for people and made some money. And so I went back to the lady and I was like, hey, I used to do this professionally. A little bit of a stretch of the truth, right? I was like, oh, I did it professionally back in high school. I'd love to clean more than just bus windows. Could we do like cop cars and trucks and other things like fire trucks and whatever? And she's like, yeah, go get a business license down at the local chamber and come back and let's set it up. And so that was really my first endeavor into like building my own thing. And I started cleaning cop cars for $45 and only took me 30 minutes to clean a cop car. And I was like, this is crazy. So then I was like, why don't I was on the baseball team. I was like, why don't I hire all these other baseball guys? And then I'll just pay them like $10 an hour and I'll keep the difference. And then I'll just line up the calendar for all of them. And so I had 5 people cleaning cop cars for me, all making, it was a 30-minute cleaning job, $45 every single time. And I just lined a calendar. And that was my first experience of being an entrepreneur. And it just started to pump. I was making like $2,000, $3,000 a week, like as a college student with a minimal time, maybe a couple of hours a week that I was working. Again, I was playing baseball and some other things. I had a job at Chili's. So yeah, I mean, that's really where kind of everything started. So pretty young. Crazy story, right?
No, definitely. I mean, two things into that. I mean, one, have you ever read the book 10X is Better Than 2X?
I have listened to the audio. I haven't read it. I want to read it. It's a fantastic that I heard. Yeah, like the audio was great. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I listened to the audiobook as well. And honestly, from that early stages, you're already in that mindset of, 10Xing versus 2Xing and, bringing those people on and stuff like that. And I think that's awesome. But another thing is, it's funny, both of us in college had similar experiences. I actually got in trouble in college as well, right? But mine was for the whole fraternity lifestyle, and I actually got suspended for 2 years, and it was, not just me, it was a group of us because of campus policies and stuff. So it's one of those things where it's a learning lesson, and you move on from there.
Yeah, and I think especially when you're younger, like late teens, I think most people, when they get hit with something like that, it's like world ending, or at least that's what most people think. And my dad hit so many brick walls, and I watched him, and I think like this is where some of my mindset was developed even younger than this, is I watched him just get into these really tough places, cash crunch, inventory crunch, customers are pissed off, this and that. And I was like, man, I would hate to be in his shoes. How is he going to handle it? And I just sit back with like some popcorn, and I was watching like how he would actually go through this. And what he ended up telling me was basically, look, every bad thing that happens to you opens a good opportunity of a door. You just got to look for it. And I think like that piece of like just helped me a lot. And every time I've hit the ground, I've like thought back to that moment. And so that's really been, I think, really where the start of my mindset started to develop for business.
No, I think that is so true. In the entrepreneurial space, as well as in life in general, you have to know that everything is adaptable, or can be adaptable, and everything is your perspective, right? So if you're looking at it as, why me, and, all the negatives, then you're only going to see the negatives. But if you're looking at it as, okay, well, this happened, what are the potential outcomes of this, or what can I learn from this? Now you see possibilities. So I think that's huge that he taught you that mindset and that perspective change from such a young age, because that is something people don't usually learn until later in life, right? If ever,
Yeah, for sure.
So with you going to college, what was your major?
So beer and women? No, just kidding. But no, it was actually marketing, business administration with an emphasis in marketing. And I came out of college and I asked my dad, I said, hey man, how do I make a boatload of money? Because that's what I wanted to do right out of college. Like most college kids are like, hey, I just want to make, like money, whatever. So he goes, well, you got 3 choices. And I was really excited for him to give me multiple options, because I was good at multiple choice questions in school. So he's like, step 1, are you a CEO? And at the time I was like, even though I had kind of been a CEO for that little window business or the cleaning business, I didn't know even what that meant. So I was like, no, I don't even know what those letters mean. I'm 21 years old coming out of college, Dad. And he's like, okay, you're not CEO. Let's go to the next one. Are you an entertainer? I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, well, I can't really sing or dance. No, not an entertainer. And then he goes, you better go learn sales. That's what he told me. I was like, okay, cool. So then I took his advice and I went and I interviewed. I got in the marketing club and I went on like, I don't even know how many interviews I went through. And I looked at all these different selling jobs. I ended up taking one selling commodities. So it's like steel and metal. And so it was like, I would sell, as an example, if you go into the hospital and you have like a heart problem and you need to get resuscitated, they'll bring this little cart over to you. It's called the cow cart. It's got those little things like clear, boom, right? Like that little cart. So if you think through actually what's in that cart, there's metal, there's plastic extrusion, there's wires, there's electronic circuit boards, there's little casings and all that stuff that goes in that little cart. Those are the things that I used to sell. So I would sell the raw material to the people that would create those things and then sell the cart to the hospital kind of thing. So it was what I would consider kind of the highest echelon of sales. I started selling business to government. So I started with my idea of what high ticket was it was fed into my face really early. $1 million a year, $5 million over 2 years, $60 million over 5 years. So like I started working on closing those deals at 21, 22 years old. And what happened was I ended up actually, when I first started, I sucked. So anybody starting their journey, please listen closely, because this was like 20 some plus years, almost 30 years ago now for me. I was so bad when I took my first sales job. And here's what I mean. When you started a sales job, when I started a sales job, internet didn't even exist. I mean, like it might have just came out, but like Facebook or any of the socials, not even close. So I was given a book of list of phone numbers of companies. And my boss, Tim, he goes, yo, man, go make some calls, set appointments, go close deals. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I got to do. So I started making these cold calls. And the first day I made 25, 0. Next day, I was like, I'll double it. I made 50. Next day I came back. I was like, oh, that didn't work either. Nothing. I'll do 80. And then fourth day, I walk into Tim's office like, this is terrible. Like, I'm not succeeding. He's like, just go back, keep doing the activity. And so that lesson was like, you just got to go through the fire. You got to sludge through the mud till you start to see results. And I still didn't know what I was doing. I did this for 6 weeks. I made 2,400 cold calls. Okay. Not a small amount. That's a lot. And guess how many appointments I booked, Devin?
10?
0.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, I was like, F this, like sales sucks. Like, I don't even want any part of this, right? Like, what am I even doing? And I called my dad. I'm like, this sales thing, man, what the hell were you I'm just going to get this job over here. And he's like, don't quit. Go to the library and read a book. Okay, thanks, Dad. So I go to the library and I pick up this Tom Hopkins Mastering the Art of Selling Stuff book. And I was like, okay, I read through. I got to like chapter 7. I was like, oh, there's a formula. I'm so excited. Like, this is dope. Like, I can do a formula because that's what I did in college. So I went back on Monday. I was all excited. And I picked up the phone and I made my first one, butchered it. Nothing happened. But then my second call, I picked up the phone and I got to the place where I was supposed to say this little line of how to book the appointment. Right? I was following the script and I was doing the thing. And I froze, like I just, that moment, and it's like the hair stand up on your neck, the sweat beads start pouring down. You're like, oh God, what's going to happen? And of course, like I totally butchered the line, but the guy on the other end knew what I was doing. And he's like, oh yeah, Sean, like, I think I need your stuff. Come on over Tuesday at 9 a.m. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, like I did it. Right. Like I booked an appointment, like obviously 6 weeks in, no bookings. And then I get one, how excited I was. Right. And I was like trying to keep it cool on the phone. I was like, oh, okay, I'll see you see you Tuesday, bro. Like, I hang up the phone and I started jumping around my office and my boss runs in, Tim. He's like, would you close the deal? I was like, no, I just booked an appointment. And he goes, get the hell out of here. I was like, whatever. But anyway, from that moment, like that was truly the moment that inspired me to design and choose my vocation. I thought to myself at that time, and I committed, and I've been committed ever since, and I'll never change, is I'm committing to becoming one of the masters of communication. And I want to help others communicate better because of the struggle that I just had for the past 6 weeks, because this sucks. And I don't want other people to go through it. And so at that moment, I chose, like, I'm dedicating my life to sales and communication through so the vocation is communication. The channel that I chose was the lost art of prospecting because I was so bad at it. I want to become the best at it. And then also the high ticket sales. Because I think when people understand how to successfully prospect and get the right people on the phone or in front of you, and then how to close a deal systematically where you can do it repeatably, you can usually take any business on earth and make it rain.
No, I agree. And I think that's awesome. I mean, it shows the persistence that you need in any area of life, right? And it could be, your fitness journey. It could be your mindset journey. It could be your entrepreneurial journey, starting a business. 2,000, plus calls is a ridiculous amount, right? And
most people don't do that in a year, by the way.
Hey guys, I just want to take a quick second. I know this episode is, and Sean's given us so much information, but with Sean and his company, Flow Chat, I just wanted to give him and his company a huge shout out. If you guys are looking to level up your sales game, let me introduce you to his company called Flow Chat. It is the ultimate chat management platform that's changing the way that we sell. I mean, honestly, I'm personally using it. Our company Strive is using it, but with Flow Chat, you can effortlessly turn your social media content into meaningful conversations, build your own custom lead list from over 14 different social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. And all organic. So you start to save money on your advertising spend because now it's trusted by the top marketing agencies, coaches, sales teams who need these consistent and reliable revenue streams coming in from new leads and new prospects. So if you're ready to see how FlowChat can work for you, go ahead and click the link below. I have put it into the show notes, or I put it into the video notes. Click the link below and book a call with Sean and his team so that you can start getting clients and booking some calls today. Oh no, absolutely not. And the thing that I want to note on that is it wasn't the fact of you, because I mean, making 2,000 calls is, again, it's a ridiculous amount, but it shows you that sometimes it's not that it doesn't work. You just don't have the skill yet or a piece of the information you need to make that work, right? So when someone says, they almost have like a delusional persistence. I just need to keep going and it's going to work eventually, and it may. But sometimes you need to take that step back and learn, go to the library. Nowadays, you can, find so many different videos on YouTube. I mean, that's how I increased a lot of my sales ability, was literally watching YouTube videos on sales, right? So sometimes you just need to continue to learn while you're doing that skill and not just keep beating your head against the wall and hoping that it's going to change. But I do want to, have you explain to the audience, for those that don't know, what is prospecting?
Yeah, so prospecting is the art of finding who we would consider a suspect, somebody who we believe based on appearance, whether it be like a social appearance on a platform or just from what we've seen from the outside of the company. So a suspect is somebody who we believe is the right fit for our company, and then turning that suspect into a true prospect of somebody that is the right fit. And the only way that that can occur is through some sort of communication, whether it be on the phone, whether it be text, whether it be email, whether it be, through DMs or whatever, right? So that is prospecting, is taking suspects and creating prospects. And then sales, prospects to clients. That's it. There's nothing else, right? Like that's the whole gamut of everything. And what you said, I think, is so valuable, Devin. And the idea of going and reading a book like I did, or going to YouTube like you did, or if you haven't hired a coach that's done the thing that you're trying to do, go and hire the coach. If you haven't worked with Devin, hire him right now, because he knows what to do and he can work you through and do some help with you, right? So it's like, that's the idea. Like, I love coaches. I stand for them. I support them. Why? Because a good coach that's actually gotten results will show people how not to fall into the pitfalls that most people fall into. And it collapses timelines and it allows you to achieve faster. This is why if you're on the edge of making an investment with a coaching program, I didn't urge you to do it. Like, go do it, right? Go through the process, see if it helps you learn the skill that you just said. Once upon a time, somebody said to me, Sean, what does it take to be one of the best salespeople on earth? And I thought about it for a long time, and I said, well, there's not just one thing. And you actually hit on one of these earlier a second ago. There's three. There's three things you must do in order to be one of the best salespeople on earth. Or this can be applied universally to anything, like you said, weight loss journey, whatever. First one is conviction. You got to know that you're convicted to getting the result that you're looking for. And if you're not 100% into being convicted, hey, I'm going to become the best shape of my life in the next 11 months. If you're not convicted when you say that, here's how to get conviction. It's really simple. Take out a piece of paper, right? Sit down and write all the reasons why you're not convicted. Very simple. Go the other way. And then look at these lists and try to sell yourself on each one of those things so you can be convicted. And if you can't sell yourself on those things you wrote down, give it to someone like Devin. Give it to your coach. Give it to someone who will read those things through with you and say, oh, well, this is probably because you just need to tweak your mindset a little bit and talk about it this way. All of a sudden, you're going to see clarity. That's the other thing coaches bring, is like wicked clarity, right? So first thing is conviction. Second thing is consistency. You got to have the reps. If you're not, like, why do baseball players make it to the big leagues? How many at-bats do you think they've taken? How many strikeouts do you think they've taken? How many swings how many hits have they got, right? So it's like the more repetition in the consistency that you're doing the activity, you will harden yourself to being able to achieve in that space. And then you got to take the skill sets and grow forward. And then the third thing is what you said earlier, is persistence. Know that you know this. I'm telling you this. You probably already know this. Everyone listening to this already knows this. You're going to get knocked down in life, and that's okay. If you can see up, you better get up and do it again. That's persistence. And so this idea of having these three elements with whatever you're trying to achieve: be convicted about it, be consistent with practicing at it, and be persistent, knowing that you're going to hit some walls, but just crush through them and keep going.
No, I agree with you 1000% on all three of those things. And I want to point out, just like you're saying, I mean, that's why we're working together. I joined your software and stuff with our company. And because could I have, went the long route and tried to figure out what you guys are doing? Probably. Would it take me, 5, 10, 20 years to do what you guys are doing? Yeah. But why not save all that time, have you guys coach me and, teach me that aspect of business that you guys are experts in. Right. And so same thing because people look at coaches, and I mean, the hard thing is on social media nowadays, everyone is a coach. Right. So my thing with that is, do your due diligence. Don't just, hire a coach to hire a coach. For me, I hired a franchise advisor when we were launching our franchise company. I didn't hire just some franchise person that, has studied a textbook. Like, I can do that. I wanted someone that had launched a franchise that, and everything. And that's why we ended up hiring ours. He built his own franchise and then sold it and everything. And he has walked the path. Now, for the reason I did it was because I valued time. Right. And I'm sure you do too.
It's the only commodity we can never get back.
Exactly. And so when people think of time freedom and time this and time that, I value time in a way that why would I spend 5 years, 10 years going up and down all the paths and, over all the obstacles that someone else has already overcome when they could just tell me the shortcuts around all these things and I can do what they did in 5 years in 1 year. Right.
That's it. Collapsing timeline. So when you first start your journey, it's always about collapse the timeline and then create the results so you can get time back. I think that's really what you're talking. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
Definitely. I agree with you. Now I want to ask you, because I also, agree with something you said earlier about, your dad telling you to learn sales and everything. And I think everyone, I don't care what industry you're in, you should know how to sell because life is selling. Right? You want to date a girl, you want to date a guy, you want to, you have to sell, right? You have to sell yourself, you have to sell what you bring to the table. But one thing that I think that you guys have mastered, and you specifically, because you've mentioned it a few times, is communication, right? Because when you have a prospect and then when you have a lead, there's two different stages that you had mentioned, but both of them, it involves the communication to be able to demonstrate and bring that prospect in and then make that prospect go down the pipeline to become a customer. So what would you say is the value or in your mind? Because I mean, you have the expertise in this, but what would you say that link is for people? Should they just start learning how to sell? Should they learn how to improve their communicational skills, or, the combination of the two?
Perfect. Great question. I do want to go back one thing, just back up like 30 seconds of this interview. And I want to say, hey, look for specialists, not for generalists, right? That's the whole idea about coaching, because like, if you find a generalist 21-year-old life coach who generally will coach you, that person hasn't even experienced life, like not even as much as I've experienced. So how can that person actually coach me on the thing? However, if I come to a life coach that's 60, that's had every one of their family members pass away, and they've gone through this journey, they've been broke, bankrupt, all these other things, like that person might be a little bit more of a specialist in life coaching than the 21-year-old. So I think experience does play a big factor in this, but I also 100% agree with what you said, is find the specialist coach, not the generalist coach. Two examples I'll give for myself. Number one, after we launched a high ticket agency a number of years ago, we found that we needed to launch a mastermind in order to teach more businesses than we could with our agency. And so we found a mastermind coach. His name is Chris Williams. He changed my life. He taught me how to run a very high ticket mastermind. And we made hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars from it. And the investment with him was $30,000. Another example, Alex Sharfin. I spent $65,000 with him per year for him to install an operating system in any of our businesses. And I learned the framework, and now I can put it in all of our businesses, and we've done tens of millions of dollars from that investment. So that's what I'm saying. Although it's scary to make an investment with a coach, do it, because it will help you collapse the timelines and accelerate beyond what you could ever imagine. Okay, so now going back to the question that you're asking is basically, where does someone start when they want to sell? Is that what you're asking? Is that kind of like generally?
In sales, right? Because people can go learn sales and learn the different, sales tactics and all that kind of stuff. But what is your input on basically just learning how to communicate better?
Got it.
And kind of aspect.
Okay. Yeah. So it's perfect. So what I would encourage people to do is I would encourage them to look at multiple selling systems. Learn the system, learn the framework, learn the architecture, because in sales, like anything, there's a science and there's an art. We have to go to school and learn the science first before we can layer our art. Everyone has a personality. That's amazing, right? We want to use your personality in your selling abilities, but you need to have some sort of a baseline framework that you can have as an underlying thing that you can repeat. Because you could just go one day and talk to 50 people and 3 people buy, and you're like, man, I don't even know how that freaking happened, but that's awesome. I got 3 people and I just know I got to go talk to 50 people a day. That gets exhausting to even think about, right? However, if you could take this framework and you could deploy it to those 50 people every single time, number one, you're probably gonna get more sales. Number two, you're gonna be able to repeat it. Number three, you're not going to have to talk to as many people in order to achieve it. So a couple of selling systems, depending on where you're at and what you're selling, if you're kind of in the bigger enterprise level sales stuff and you're selling to government and you're selling to a longer timeline or time cycle to close deals, I would encourage someone to look at like the Sandler selling method. That's one that I really stuck to. That one helped me make a lot of money. Again, I spent $12,000 a year with my sales coach when I first started learning sales to learn that. Right. And then I had that as a system, and that's what helped me to close deals that 60 million for 5 years or 2 million for 2 years, like those types of deals. Like I used that system infrastructure and it worked. Then I went into different types of selling. I've tried MLMs and network marketing, and there's things like spin selling. And then you get into like B2B selling. So Neil Rackham wrote the book Spin Selling, very easy book to digest in like one sitting. I would encourage someone to go get that book. And then if you're more like where you're at, is you're more into the mindset of stuff. There's another selling system called the Persuasion Code, written by Dr. Christoph Morin, and he put together, there's two parts of the book. The first one is using meta biases to sell, which gets into the primal brain stuff, which is really fascinating if you're into that. But then second part is like another selling system that's really designed for like B2B. So depending on the selling systems, like those are 3 that I would encourage. There's books on all 3 of them. I would just go read one of those books. There's a lot. There's a challenger sale is another great method. There's so many. And again, I spent $500,000 personally learning. I learned like 40 or 50 of these things. And then I looked at what's the most common elements across all of these selling systems. And I distilled that down into my own version, and it came up with 5 steps. And then when I partnered with Chris Baden back in 2016, he was kind of a street selling guy, not formally trained like I was. And he's like, well, these 2 things are missing. And so we created a 7-step system called the Ascension Selling Method, which is designed specifically for B2B digital marketing space sales. And that was the system now that we actually have inside of our platform that anybody can go through and absorb it in a weekend. And look, I can teach you to be a ninja at sales in a weekend. But the bigger question I have is, now that you know the frameworks, where's the opportunity coming from? Where's the reps? Where's the at-bats? Because if you don't have the at-bats flowing through on a consistent and predictable basis, you can learn all the theory you want, but it's not going to mean shit.
Yep. And I think that's really important what you did. And because I mean, this is how I teach, our trainers and, our franchisees and stuff. Like there's templates to everything, and there's, formulas to everything, but you have to make the formula yours and make it sound like you, right? And that's where that communicational aspect, in my opinion, comes in, because there are so many different methods, but like you did, you took pieces of what you liked from each one and you formulated your formula, right? And then that's what you ended up working with, because if you're following someone else's, it might just not sound like you, and someone can hear that over the phone. Someone can see that in the way you write. So I think that's really important, that you did 100%. Mention that, and you basically make your own puzzle and your own masterpiece from the pieces and fragments of others.
Yep. And then people will latch on to you and they will love you. That's why they always say we all stand on the shoulders of the giants that came before us that did the thing. I can look at any selling system on the planet and I can say where parts and pieces came from because I just know the backing. And that's what's fascinating to me because like Jeremy Miner is one of the biggest ones on YouTube that you'll see all over the place. He's got his NEPQ black book, right? Those questions were designed right out of like 3 selling systems that I saw like 10 years ago. And he repositioned it and bucketed it as this is something new and different. And then people buy it. Why? Because people buy for 3 reasons: new, rare, and different. Don't ever position your franchise as bigger, better, or faster or stronger. Anything with an ER, knock that out of your vocabulary and say, no, this is different. Here's why. Or this is rare. Here's why. Or this is new. No one's seen this before. People are much more attracted to those 3 things than the ers, as I put it. Yeah.
No, 1,000% on that. I definitely agree. And that's why we take out those ERs on anything because people are looking for that new vehicle, that new opportunity. They're not looking for just the improved version.
And right? it takes away the comparison factor, right? Because if you say, oh, this is bigger than, this is better, this is faster, they're thinking, then what? And then they magically create something in their mind. And whatever they create in your mind, if your stuff isn't bigger, newer, faster, better, guess what? You're not going to get the deal. But if you say, hey, this is new, different, and rare, they have no basis of comparison. Just take it out of the equation. Yeah,
no, I definitely agree. And so I do want to dive a little bit into, what you're doing now. And before we do that, just to give some validity to what you're about to go into, those awards on the wall behind you, I know I've seen those, the ClickFunnels awards, but what are those for? Just so people know.
So this one was part of being the Guinness Book of World Records, and the ClickFunnels in the inner circle with Russell. I know him and his family dearly. They're dear friends of mine, and he invited me and my wife to be part of breaking a world record for bubble soccer. So that's what that one up here is. Like I played bubble soccer with a whole bunch of YouTube influencers. It was a lot of fun. But this one here behind my head is from our company. So similar to how ClickFunnels operates, we have a very decent reward system where if you use our system, our software, and you generate 6 figures in a calendar year, we send you a 6-figure club award because you've just made it into the 6-figure club. When we start doing live events, you're going to have a special space. You're going to be catered to, red carpet, white glove service. For those that do 7 figures, we have a 7-figure club. And then for those who do 8 figures, we have the 8-figure club as well. So we do send out, and our 8-figure club award is massive. Obviously, FlowChat hasn't achieved it. We've only been around for 4 years, but we're definitely close. I think we're on the other side of 5 million now after the first 4 years. And so the 8-figure club is a lifetime achievement award versus just a single calendar year. And that's basically how those awards work. So FlowChat, again, recognition is very valuable. It's very important. I love recognition. I learned it from the network marketing space, going to these humongous conventions and seeing these big hitters going up and having these speeches and saying, I'm just a normal guy. I never believed it until I actually got coached by one. His name was Chris. He did $22 million from a financial services network marketing company that I was part of. And I was like, yeah, he's just a normal guy. Like I can spin around him in my sleep. But it was just his consistency, his persistency, and his conviction to be the best. And that's how he got on stage. And that's how he built a downline of, I don't even know, thousands of people. So with FlowChat, what it does, really simple, is it is based on 3 pillars. The idea that number 1 is universally importing suspects or prospects. So you can go across, we're the only people that work on 14 different social media platforms, and you can go anywhere. Take Facebook, for example. You could go to a competitor's Facebook group. You can go to a complementary Facebook group. You can go to whatever Facebook group you're a part of and click a button and collect all those members and put them into the part 2, which is what we call a Kanban board, or it's our pipeline. Right. So 1 is universally importing. You make a viral post and all these people comment and they like it. Well, wouldn't it be cool to click a button and collect all those people and just put them in a system where you can start messaging them? Yeah, that's the first part of FlowChat. The second part is that conversational flow. We were the first people to ever design and build the basically Trello board version for DMs in the personal space. As soon as we launched it, everyone copied it, which is great because it told me it's validation in the marketplace. And all the pipeline is designed to do is manage each one of your conversations throughout the entire process, from how did you get engagement? What was the transition part of the conversation like? Did you do the right invite to either book to a call or get to a page, web page or whatever to buy something? And then did they make a purchase? And so I'm a sales brain guy, as you probably heard. I'm a student of marketing. I will forever be a student of marketing. I will claim I'm very good at sales. Just from what people say to me and my results. I mean, over 200 million personally, like it's a big number. So it's one of those things where it's like, you need a system that can track, like, where is this person? How is this person moving? Because otherwise what happens if you're just relying on the inboxes in your environment of whether it be Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever, right? All deals slip through the cracks if you're not like 100% on at all times. Whereas FlowChat will just keep track of everything for you and allow you to push people through a process. Again, it's that systematic framework, and the art is the words. What are you saying that's going to get them to actually take action? And that's why I love communication so much, because it is the art of words. Like, that's really where it comes down to. And then being on video and being charismatic and all the other things that, so, yeah. And then the last pillar, okay, so it's first is import, second is pipeline view, third is reporting, because anybody doing anything organic usually sucks at reporting. No offense. It's just what I've seen over the past 20 years. And so we spent a tremendous amount of dev work and time in building out some reporting systems that are just crazy simple to operate with, but it gives you exact specific stuff on what you need to optimize. As an example, I can tell you for a fact that I run in one of our many processes to gain new opportunities for ourselves. We invite people to a Facebook group. We nurture them through the conversation in the Facebook group, and then we invite to a calendar, right? So that's one flow that we run inside of our own system. We use our own system to sell our own system. We've never spent a dime on paid ads, yet we've done tens of millions of dollars because the system works, right? Like, it's just, that's what it is. And so I could tell with authority, I could say, look, I know when I put a new person into my flow, in that flow, it takes less than 12 days from my first message to a new deal, right? Big. No one can even say that about anything organic. 12 days or less, my organic system will produce every time, right? And then people coming through that, I can also tell you my sales team converts at 62% as a team. Most individual owners can convert around that number. As a team, hey, how did that happen, Sean? Because it's systemized as the science, and then I teach them all to lay their art right on top of the system. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's why we started using it. I mean, we have other softwares, we have other things going on, but I think one of the key factors with FlowChat for us too was not only the automations that it brings, right? Because we have some other softwares that we use and that we've built for our franchise that has some automations, but you guys have designed and really, dug in, and I give you the expert tag on this, and made it a way in like the organic space. Mm-hmm. Whereas entrepreneurs, in like, especially if you're a newer entrepreneur, if you don't really have a huge budget for advertising, I completely get it. I've been there personally. I know Sean has been there over the years as well. And I would highly recommend that, you take the time and look into FlowChat and, schedule a call with them, because this is a way to start getting leads organically and building rapport organically. So that's why we're using it. We're using it for the gym. We're using it for the franchise. And I'm actually going to be using it for even the podcast as well too. So there's different aspects to do it. There's no limitations on it. So I just want to commend you guys for building such an amazing product. And it is huge. And I know it's going to hit that 9-figure mark. But no, I just wanted to mention those awards because it's one of those things like we talked about early. You're not looking for a coach that's a generalist. You are a specialist in this market. And that's why after our first call, I told you on the call we had for me signing up for the software, I was like, hey, I want to bring you onto the podcast. Like, I think your knowledge and your insight is amazing. So before we wrap up, I do want to ask you one question that I ask everyone, right? And that question is, hypothetically speaking, right, everything that you've created with your name on it is basically erased. You get one message you're allowed to leave on the Sean Malone legacy wall. What is your message?
Great question. Loving hubby, best friend, cat dad, and disc golfer.
Okay. That sounds like a tombstone though. Like what is your message?
That's what I thought you were asking for.
No.
Okay, not a tombstone. Okay, legacy wall. Give me an example, man.
Okay, so legacy wall meaning like anything to basically give your one piece of advice, your one piece of expertise that you've learned over your years for newer entrepreneurs or for people in trying to develop their mindset. That one thing that you've been learning.
Got it. So Peng Joon, if you know who Peng Joon is, he's this Malaysian marketing guy, and he's such an expert. He's done hundreds of millions of dollars. He's a dear friend of mine. I met him in the Inner Circle Funnels, and I asked him a similar question, like, what would you give your advice to your 20-year-old self if you could? And I actually resonated so hard with his answer that I've stolen his answer. So that's where it came from, right? And it's just is this. It's really simple. Give yourself grace and know that everything's going to work out the way it needs to work out.
That's huge.
Yeah,
that is huge. Just before we wrap up, explain that I've heard that a similar quote to that, and I think that honestly I resonate with it as well. Just real quick, elaborate what you mean on give yourself grace.
Well, how much do you beat yourself up? What's your self-talk like, right? If your mindset is in the trash, which obviously you're an expert at that, by the way. If your mindset is in the gutter and you're constantly negative, you have no room in your brain for positive talk and for helpful stuff. And so what we need to do is we need to silence the negativity, because we beat ourselves up so badly. We never give ourselves grace. My wife, perfect example. She runs 2 trading businesses, and she misses a indicator, or she misses a trade, or she's like, and she pulls her hair and she bangs the thing, and she gets really upset. I'm like, no. Just give yourself a little grace. There's going to be another trade. Remember, there's always another opportunity around the next corner. And that kind of calms her down. And so I think just remembering the idea that one day, one event, one thing going wrong is not going to end everything. Okay. Exactly. In most cases. I mean, sometimes obviously if you get in a massive car wreck and die, then that's one thing. But I'm just saying, yeah, I mean, and even I was at this point where I forgot this lesson. There was a time in my career where I was so burned out because I was running our first software product, and we had this massive network marketing business. I had over almost 3,000 people in my downline that had paid us all $10,000. And so it was a big deal. Right. And I was completely burned out. I was driving to the Inner Circle to do this presentation, and I saw a tree, and I just got off this call with a bad prospect, and I had all those negative things creeping in my head. I saw a tree, and I was like, I'm done. I'm going to hit this tree. But my wife was in the car. And so because she was in the car, I did not swerve off the road. Otherwise, if she hadn't been in the car, I don't think I'd be here, man. And I pulled over, I started crying, and she's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I almost just killed myself on that tree. And she was like, what? And so that put me into a place where I was burned out. I was so burned out because I was just working 20 hours a day. It was insane. And so I went to this Inner Circle, and then Russell said, hey, man, this business is killing your soul, right? I wasn't giving myself the grace. And he said, kill your baby, sell the software company, because if you don't, it will steal your soul. And I was like, whoa. And this was an 8-figure business doing more. We did 13 million in our first 10 months. How do you sell a company like that? It's a cash cow. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You're my coach. I'm coachable. I'm in. I'm going to do the thing. Right. And so it took us a year, and we sold the first software company, and that led us down the path to where we're at now. And so Russell, Alex Sharfin, my wife, and my business partner, Chris, are the 4 people that pulled me from that burnout and allowed me to remember this message of giving myself grace every day. And if you start with grace, you're fine. And then if you just remember everything's going to work out the way that it needs to, that leads into, you got to have a little more patience. Have some patience.
That's awesome. That was like a mic drop. You picked it back up and you mic dropped it again. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you taking the time so much, and the knowledge that you were able to spread today. I know the audience has, picked up on it. And guys, if you're listening, make sure you guys share the show, leave us a review, and share this episode with someone else that is going down that journey and is going down the entrepreneurial path and maybe facing something like a burnout, or someone that's newer on the entrepreneurial path that could use a software like Sean's and that can make their system so much easier without having to spend buckets of money on advertising. So Sean, thank you again so much for coming on today, and we will definitely be connecting again soon.
Oh, I appreciate you again, Devin. You're a class act, man. Keep doing what you're doing and leading the charge. You're a true thought leader in the space. I think your mindset is perfect, by the way. Even though there's probably some dark spots in there, know that grace, right?
Yep.
And again, just keep pushing with the franchise thing. I'm excited to watch your business continue to thrive and grow like it is. So great job, and you're the man.
I appreciate you. Talk to you soon.
No negative vibes, only positive thoughts. Just in the game of life, mindset causes shots. Got my mind on the prize, I can't be distracted. I stay on my grind, no time to